Good morning, everybody. Today is Wednesday, November the 16th, and it is 10:46 in the morning. I'm going to start off with a sound saying coming from Malachi 3:16, and it says, Then they that fear the Lord speaketh often one to another, and the Lord hearketh and heardeth. Then they that fear the Lord speaketh often one to another, and the Lord hearketh and heardeth. Yes, he hears everything we say out of our mouth, and he knows everything we're going to say out of our mouth. How magnificent is that? That is why he is called the Almighty God of Israel. The back is coming from Psalms 94:22. But the Lord is my defense, and my God is the rock of my refuge. Amen. But the Lord is my defense, and my God is the rock of my refuge. And what did we say refuge was yesterday? Somewhere to go and hide. Okay, so you can hide under the shadows of God's wing. Even here on earth, he has done it many, many times. He does it now for those that run because they're innocent. Just because you run doesn't always mean that you are guilty. Think of all the times Jesus ran. He was never guilty in any time that he ran, but he always felt the need that he had to run sometimes. But when the time came, he did not run. He stood still. Okay, so God is your greatest source of strength. He is also your refuge, and no one hide you like God. No one. Okay? You could be right underneath of their nose, and they still can't find you. Okay, and he has hidden quite many. He has hidden David. He has hidden Elijah. He has hidden baby Jesus. He has hidden many in the biblical times and in our times as well. Today I haven't done this in a long time, and that's one of the reasons why I like my old trusty rainbow book. It has the colors in here, and one of the things that it does have in here that I really appreciate is an introduction into the book that we're reading. And we'll start reading from 1Kings. Actually, we will be reading from 1Kings. So I will give you a quick introduction into that. The author is unknown, possibly Jeremiah is the author. It was written between 640 and 550 BC, compiled from earlier sources. Time span about 130 years, the period of time from the rise of Solomon to the death of Ahab. This book is named because it is a history of the kings who ruled Israel and Judah. Background. The sequel to 1 and 2 Samuel begins by tracing Solomon's rise to kingship after the death of David. The story begins in a united kingdom, but ends in a nation divided into two kingdoms known as Judah and Israel. 1st and 2nd Kings together consist of one book in the Hebrew Bible. Where written unknown, possibly in Judah and Egypt. Those are the two possible locations this portion could have been written. To whom? To the Israelites, of course, and to those of us who read it today. Contents. 1st Kings describes Solomon's range, wealth, wisdom. The golden age of Solomon is highlighted with construction of the temple. After his death, there is a division in the kingdom, with his son Rehoboam ruling over Judah in the southern kingdom and Jeroboam ruling over Israel in the northern kingdom. The capital of Judah at this time is Jerusalem, and the capital of Israel is Samaria. This divided situation continues for over 300 years, with each nation having its own king. The book ends recount the miracles and ministry of the prophet Elijah, especially in contrast to Israel's most wicked king Ahab. Keywords, are PowerPoints. I always say that our keywords are PowerPoints. And what are PowerPoints? These are facts. They don't need to be proven. Like, it is a fact that you are looking at a woman, a brown-skinned woman. Those are facts. Okay? And that's what PowerPoints are. Facts. And we have a few here. Keywords. Wisdom are keywords. Division. Keywords in the book of 1st and 2nd King. Samuel's rise is directly attributed to the fact that he seeks wisdom from God instead of fame or fortune, which is today we don't seek wisdom at all. We just want fame and fortune. We find that wisdom is irrelevant. Okay? And God is irrelevant in our lives based on the things that we allow to, or the things that we tolerate in our world today. We are no longer fearful of God, and we don't consider God in all that we do. And I'm not trying to put everybody in this box, this messy box. Okay, that's just the wicked, and there are so many wicked in power that it's literally frightening. All right. When the wicked rule in the Bible, is a frightening time for the people. It's the same scenario, and no matter what generation it is, when the wicked are in power, it's a frightening time on earth. Okay, so let's continue with our keywords. So wisdom and division are keywords. Solomon's rise is directly attributed to the fact that he seeks wisdom from God instead of fame or fortune. But unhealthy influences from foreign wives lead to his divided heart. Of course, he had 700 wives and 300 concubines, and I would feel confident saying that the 700 wives he had was most likely 700 foreign wives. The 300 concubine was most likely among the Hebrew women. Okay, so that's why he was so easily led away from God as he aged. Okay, that doesn't mean that all of us get feeble-minded as we age, but this particular king did. Which in turn leads to a division in the nation. Okay, so key points in this particular two books are that God uses history to set before us examples of successful and of defeated lives. He uses history. Okay, and I like to use biblical history to show you the pitfall of wickedness, to show you what can come about from having it our way. Okay, it is not good. It may take some time coming back to us, but it's going to come back, and it's going to be a tsunami effect. And you do know what a tsunami is, and you know the effects of a tsunami. You've seen it on television all the time. It is a dangerous situation. It moves everything in its path. Okay, that is the way the wrath of God works. It moves everything in its path. It destroys things, especially the wicked. And the book of Psalms speaks of destroying the wicked constantly. Okay, God uses history to set before us examples of successful and defeated lives. Point 2. We must follow godly leadership and be godly leaders of others. We must do this. It didn't say we have a choice. It says we must do this. All right? We must follow godly. Don't listen to people like Leno, or whatever his name, Jay Leno, said that I don't see the clouds coming down before my door. So when that day comes, let the Lord make sure that that cloud comes right before his front and back door, if he's living. We must follow godly leadership and be godly leaders for others. God is more concerned that we have wisdom and a heart for Him than in our personal accomplishments. So what does that mean? That no matter how much you accomplish in life, you ought to love God more than all of your accomplishments altogether. More than the size of your bank account altogether. More than the need to want to please people altogether. Because some things that people want you to do are wicked or is considered wicked in the sight of God. The consistent company we keep in family and friends can influence us positively or negatively. And this runs true in every generation. Try to remember that. All right? Just because it's coming from a family member doesn't mean that you ought to accept negativity. All right? Okay, now let's go to the reading, which is, I'm not going to read it from this book because it's the old. But before I do that, I'd like to share a little bit about Jeroboam. He was originally Jeroboam. You could say Jeroboam or Jeroboam. Now, he is the king of the northern. Okay, and his Solomon's son, Rehoboam, becomes king of the southern when they are divided. Now, prior to him becoming king, he used to work under the leadership of Solomon. Okay, but because of Solomon's apostasy, God began to punish him for the things that he was doing. He was getting old and feeble-minded, and he had all these foreign wives, and he began to build temples for each one of his foreign wives for whatever god they worship. And he too began to worship these gods as well. Okay, pulling him away from the God who gave him everything he had. Okay, Jeroboam means he that opposes the people. Ironic, isn't it? It means he that opposes the people. Rehoboam means was the son of Solomon, and his name means the nation is enlarged. Okay. Now, Rehoboam was the son of Naban. He was also an overseer under Solomon, who incurred the suspicion of the king as an instrument of the popular Democratic and prophetic parties. Ahijah was also an important individual in the book of 1st and 2nd King. He was the one that was prophesying to Jeroboam about his future. And he was also a servant of the Lord. The Shilonite was a Levite prophet of Shilom in the days of Solomon. Ahijah foretells to Jeroboam that he will become king. And he does this in 1 King 11:29. Okay. And he does this when he goes to meet him. Now, Jeroboam is also a mighty man of Balaam, who King Solomon placed in charge of the Ephraim and Manasseh to fortify Jerusalem. Okay, he lifted up his hands against the king in 11:26-28. Okay, I'm trying to break this up a little bit to give you a little history. Jonah was also prophesying during this time. A lot of times when you hear about Jonah, you hear about the city of Nineveh. But Jonah was also one of the prophets that did prophesy about Jeroboam. And his prophecy was not as positive at all. He prophesied that this wicked king would restore the ancient boundaries of Israel and also preach repentance in Isaiah the city of Lebanon, which is now is actually located in Nigeria. Lebanon is located in Nigeria. Okay. So Ahijah finds Jeremiah one day off on his own, and he's wearing this new cloak, and to show him that which he was prophesying that would become of him, he does this. To illustrate his prophecy, Elijah tears a cloud in 12 pieces, gives 10 to Jeroboam, and says, "Take thee 10 pieces, for thus said the Lord, the God of Israel, behold, I will take the kingdom out of the hand of Solomon, and will give 10 tribes to thee. But he shall have 1 tribe for my servant's sake, David." So he didn't give him all 12 tribes. He only offered him 10 of that tribe. So in this particular verse, you can see that God is highly favoring Jeroboam at this point. Okay. And the only request God made, after he told him what he would do, he had a request for him. It was a very simple request, not difficult at all to follow. He simply said, the Lord promised Jeroboam that if he would keep the commandments, he would become king over Israel. When Solomon learned that Jeroboam was a threat to his kingdom, he sought to kill Jeroboam, and Jeroboam fled to Egypt and stayed there until the death of King Solomon. Okay, so at that time it was pretty easy to kill your enemies, especially if you were the king. Okay, so Jeroboam is on the run, and he's gone for about 10 years. He stays in Egypt for about 10 years. And after he becomes king, he too begins to turn. I call it the turn. Turn from God. And he starts doing all kinds of foolishness. So let's read the chapter, since we got a little bit of information about some of the characters in the chapter. Okay, this is chapter 14 of 1 Kings, and here it says Ahijah prophesies against Jeroboam. So remember, Ahijah was the one that had the new clout that he ripped in 12 pieces and told him to take 10. He was the one that prophesied that he would become king. Well, in this chapter now, he is prophesying against Jeroboam. So yes, Jonah was right. He did become an evil king indeed. It's just crazy how God loses his people right away. He lost Saul. He lost Obama. He lost in every generation, no matter who it is. They start off on a good foot, and then suddenly some of them get lost right away. Some of them, it takes time for them to get lost, like Solomon. It takes years for Solomon to get lost. He got old and feeble. Well, some people get lost immediately, like Saul, or like I said, Obama. He got lost. All right, let's go. At that time, Abijah, son of Jeroboam, became ill. So he had a son. And this young boy became ill. Okay. Now, he is not the highly favored anymore among the kings to God. He's not highly favored. He's done some shady things, and now his son is ill. And before, when he needed advice, instead of going to Ahijah, who had given him prophecy about his life, and it came to pass, when he needed advice, he didn't go to any of the prophets. He didn't go to Jonah. He didn't go to Ahijah. He didn't go to another servant or prophet of God. He went to another. We don't know who he went to, but we know and we understand that it wasn't a servant of God. Because after he went and got this advice, he then went on to build 2 giant calves, that he had one placed in Dan and one in Bethel, and he insisted on telling his kingdom that it was too far for them to go here, that they should go right here, and because these are your gods that brought you out of Egypt. You see the wickedness he has done? So now you understand why the same servant who prophesied his prosperity came back to prophesy his doom. All right? So his son gets ill. At the time, Abijah, son of Jeroboam, becomes ill. And he's sneaky. And Jeroboam said to his wife, "Go disguise yourself, so you won't be recognized as the wife of Jeroboam. Then go to Shilom. Ahijah the prophet is there, and the one who told me I will be king over this kingdom." Okay? "Take 10 loaves of bread with you, some cake and a jar of honey, and go to him. He will tell you what will happen to the boy." Okay, so he believed in the prophecy of this servant. So I don't understand, and no one will ever understand, why he did not seek the counsel of this servant before he went and built these calves. We know that whoever he sought counsel from was not among the servants of God. Okay, because that's when he went and built those calves. But when his son is sick, now he needs a true prophet now. Okay. So Jeroboam's wife did what he said and went to Ahijah's house in Shilom. Now Ahijah could not see because he's older now, because he was under the leadership of Solomon at first. Okay. So he is older and his eyes are failing him. Now Ahijah could not see, his sight was gone because of his age, but the Lord had told Ahijah, Jeroboam's wife is coming to ask you about her son, for he is ill. And this is God speaking to his servant now. And you are to give her such and such an answer. That's what the Bible says. Let's see what such and such is. When she arrives, she will pretend to be someone else. All right? So when Ahijah heard the sounds of her footsteps at the door, he said, "Come in, wife of Jeroboam." That tickles me a little bit when you're trying to be slick. "Why this pretense?" he says. I have been sent to you with bad news. Go tell Jeroboam that this is what the Lord, the God of Israel, said. I raised you up from among the people and made you a leader over my people Israel. I tore the kingdom away from the house of David and gave it to you. But you have not been like my servant David, who kept my commands and followed me with all his heart, doing only what was right in my sight. This is what we ought to be doing in our world today. We ought only to be doing what is right in God's sight. And it is never going to be right in God's sight for 2 men and 2 women to marry at all. You have done more evil than all who lived before you. So this is in the biblical time. God is speaking to Jeroboam. Can you just imagine what he thinks of our time? Can you just imagine the wrath that we have coming our way? Let me read that again. You have done more evil than all who lived before you. You have made for yourself other gods, idols made of metal. You have provoked me to anger and thrust me behind your back. But because of this, I am going to bring disaster on the house of Jeroboam. I will cut off from Jeroboam every last male in Israel. Now, Joram did the same thing in Edom. Stayed there for 6 months and killed every male. It took him 6 months. Was it cruel? Absolutely not. Nothing God does is cruel. If it brings righteousness and justice in the land, it is not cruel. Because he is a patient God and he gives us plenty of time to get our act together. I will cut off from Jeroboam every last male in Israel, slave or free. That's right, God is the creator of the slave and the free. I will burn up the house of Jeroboam as one burned done, until it is all gone. Dogs will lick those belonging to Jeroboam who die in the city, and the birds of the air will feed on those who die in the country. So that means that everyone connected to this man, to this king, will die in a horrible death, except for the sick child. And God will tell you why. Dogs will eat those belonging to Jeroboam who die in the city, and the birds of the air will feed on those who die in the country. The Lord has spoken. As for you, go back home. When you set foot in your city, the boy will die. All Israel will mourn for him and bury him. He is the only one belonging to Jeroboam who will be buried, because he is the only one in the house of Jeroboam in whom the Lord, the God of Israel, found anything good. Which means that he would have been a different man than his father. A better king than his father. The only one. The Lord will raise up for himself a king over Israel who will cut off the family of Jeroboam. This is the day. Yes. What? Yes, even now. And the Lord will strike down Israel so that it will be like a reed swaying in the water. He will uproot Israel from this good land that he gave to their forefathers and scatter them beyond the river, because they provoked the Lord to anger by making Asherah poles. And he will give Israel up because of the sins Jeroboam has committed and has caused Israel to commit. Yes, he did. He created those calves, remember? And please don't think that everyone went to these two locations. Remember we were talking the other day about those with no faith, those with little faith, and those with die-hard faith. The die-hard faith will never go to any of these locations. They will travel all the way to Jerusalem. Okay? Only the lost ones went there. And we have more lost souls on earth than ever. And the population on earth is not as great as it was in the biblical time. Why? Because we have people telling you that it's okay for you to kill your child. So the more people the Lord sends upon the earth, the greater the abortion line gets. Then Jeroboam's wife got up and left and went to Tirzah. And I would have been crying all the way, quite frankly. As soon as she stepped over the threshold of the house, the boy died. They buried him, and all Israel mourned for him, all Israel, as the Lord has said through his servant, the prophet Ahijah. The other events of Jeroboam reign, his wars, and how he ruled are written in the book of the annals of the king of Israel. He reigned for 22 years and then rested with his father, and Nadab, his son, succeeded him as king. Okay. Meanwhile, Rehoboam, the son of Solomon, king of Judah, Rehoboam, son of Solomon, was king in Judah. He was 41 years old when he became king, and he reigned 17 years in Jerusalem, the city the Lord had chosen out of all the tribes of Israel in which to put his name. His mother's name was Naamah. She was an Ammonite. Judah did evil in the eyes of the Lord. By the sins they committed, they stirred up his jealousy, anger more than their fathers had done. They also set up for themselves high places, sacred stones, and Asherah poles on every high hill and under every spreading tree. There was even male shrine prostitutes. You did hear that, right? So there's nothing new about homosexuality. The only thing new about it is they're up in front and demanding this, that, and the other. That's new. And because we have a godless nation of leaders, they're getting what they want. Okay, continue on. There was even male shrine prostitutes in the land. The people engaged in all the detestable practices of the nation the Lord had driven out before the Israelites. In the 5th year of King Rehoboam, Shishkan, king of Egypt, attacked Jerusalem. He carried off the treasures of the temple of the Lord and the treasures of the royal palace. He took everything, including all the gold shields Solomon had made. So King Rehoboam made bronze shields to replace them and assigned these to the commanding of the guard on the duty at the entrance to the royal palace. Whenever the king went to the Lord's temple, the guards bore the shields, and afterward they returned them to the guard room. As for the other events of Rehoboam's reign and all he did, are they not written in the book of the annals of the king of Judah? These were continual warfare between Rehoboam and Jeroboam, and Rehoboam rested with his father and was buried with them in the city of David. His mother's name was Naamah. She was an Ammonite, and Abijah, his son, succeeded him as king. Okay, so the moral of our story is that no matter what we think we are able to do, if it is something that it is detestable in the eyes of God, it doesn't matter whether it is the biblical time or 1800s or today. We will still pay the price for our evil deeds. Okay? We will always be held accountable for our actions. And if he allows someone to come into your husband's house, if you are among the leaders of this country, and beat him to death with a hammer, that goes to tell you that there is no one, high or low, out of the reach of God. No one. And if you are part of this mess that is going on in his earth, he will deal with you first before he deal with the poor. It will be the rich leaders of this country that he will deal with first. Thank you very much for listening to us here at Spiritual Water. My name is Brenda Guerrero, and as always, I say these to you all the time. It is a blessing. May the peace of God be upon you. May the protection of God surround all those you love. Not your property, not your money, the people you love. And may the will of God, not the will of man, be manifested upon his earth, not ours. I love you. Have a beautiful day. And as always, walk with peace, sincerity, compassion, and kindness. Have a great day.